Hey guys, how are you? Let me explain to you how you can write a book in a couple of ways, right? If you're a bad writer, you can still write a book. If you're a good writer but you don't have time, you can still write a book. And if you're a good writer, I'll still explain to you what you need to do to get your book written. And then I'll explain to you, if you want to be a prolific writer, like let's say you want to write 100 books that are good, I'll explain how to do that. First of all, if you are a bad writer, you might say, oh, I'm a bad writer, what should I do? Here's what you should do. You don't have to write well. What you have to have is good ideas. You have to have the original the concept for the book, and the points in the book have to be good for someone to be interested in. If you have that, you hire someone either from like a third world country where, you know, it would be it would be extremely cheap to write it, and you tell them the points, you outline the points, you can audio record what you want them to have written, and then they'll write it for you. Once they'll write it for you, you take it to a professional editor, so the cost for writing a book will be a couple $100 probably. The editor will also be maybe $500 or $400 or $300 or $600, something like that, depending on the length of the book. I've heard, you know, editing is about 3 cents per word or something like that. Does that make sense? Yeah, maybe 3 cents a word or 2 cents a word is about approximately the going rate. I think 2 cents a word is a good deal. 3 cents a word is actually the standard. But basically you get the book edited by a professional first language English writer who knows how to edit books, right? So you didn't write a single word, you just provided the ideas, but you hired a virtual assistant to make a rough sketch from your ideas, and then you hire a professional editor to edit it. So it'll be professionally edited, full length, perfect, with your ideas, right? Then you go and sell. So that's how you, if you're a bad writer, this is what you do. Now if you're a good writer, this is good. You can kind of write the book yourself, but you still need to get an editor, okay? Now, if you don't have a lot of time, if you want to write a lot of books, okay, pretend you're a bad author, right? Just audio record what you want to say in the book, or give a general rough outline of like the chapters and sections of the book. Get a person to write it, you know, somewhere overseas, right? You go in and correct all the points. You make sure the points that you want made are in the book. Make sure the points are in there. Again, hire a quality editor, because the quality editor, that's basically your last, for everything you do, the last point there is the editor, right? And then you have to go in and make sure that the points are well preserved and they're clear still at the end. And then publish the book, right? On Amazon, on the Kindle, you can publish within a day or two. And so if you want to write 50 books, okay, because actually many experienced successful authors on Amazon, on the Kindle, their first book wasn't successful. Their first book was typically a flop. Maybe the same with the second book. And usually what would happen is they would get like one really good book at some point, and then they would become kind of known authors or semi-known. And then what would happen is after they became semi-known, that gave a small rise to their other books, because guess what? Amazon starts recommending, like, oh, you bought this book, here are books by this author. You can send people to your author page, they see all your books. And the other books will start to rise in the Amazon rankings as well, because they'll be getting purchased because people will have seen your successful book. But you've got to get to the successful book by doing many books, right? Well, at least that's the path for many people. And the way you do many books is basically, on the Kindle, you know, writing many long books is hard, but the Kindle allows you to, you know, this is the era of shorter books. 50 pages plus is okay. Whereas, you know, traditionally, if you had thought of a book, you might be thinking of a book you would buy in print. You might think of a book that's like, you know, maybe 150 pages, 200, 300 pages. There are certain even sections and categories within the Kindle of, like, you know, under 50 pages, under 60 pages, under 40, something like that, right? So quick reads. and you can make a lot of quick reads. They'll, you know, a lot of them probably won't generate a lot of money, but you're kind of just looking for some winners. And what you can do is essentially hire, and this is something that a lot of successful authors do, hire, you know, out of the country people, like, you know, people in, I hate the word third world, but let me just use that. Like in third world countries, they'll write the book for you. It won't be good at all, right? But then you go and you make sure your ideas are preserved, you edit it, right? And then you give it to a professional editor to make sure that the spelling and the grammar is good and it reads fine. And then you publish. And you do this boom, 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 right? But you do very little of the work. You just tell these guys what to write, what ideas should be preserved, you proofread it once, right? It's nowhere near the effort of actually writing the whole book, rereading it by yourself, right? So the effort is about less than 10% of the effort, right? Because the other guys do it for you. The challenge is you have to spend money, but once you spend the money, you're golden, because you actually, you know, no matter how bad of a writer or how good of a writer, you don't have time, no matter what excuse you might give, really all you need is your ideas, okay? You have ideas, this is the pattern for creating books. Once you get this really, once you get a really you get this working really well, like you establish a good relationship with your VA, the guy who's going to be like in a third world country and who's going to write a lot for very cheap. And once you have a good relationship and a good working relationship with your editor, or you can crank this out, right? And you know, even if you don't sell, let's say you sell like 1 copy a day of each book, right? But ultimately, if you create 100 books this way, right? And let's say your royalty would be something like $5 per book, right? Well, that's $500 a day, right? Which is like, you know, I think is it $15,000 a month, right? Yeah, it is. So you see, you can make really nice revenue relatively quickly if you really, you know, obviously there will be an investment on your part at first, but I mean, you can become like a best-selling, you know. And by the way, when you have this sort of like many books, you'll start being recommended, you know, oh, this person bought this book, you might like this book, so they'll actually amplify each other, right? So 1 + 1 sort of becomes 3, right? Because you write 1 book, it just lives by itself. You write 2 books, well, if one person get this book, they might discover your other book from that book, and right, so you might actually generate more sales. So actually, this is a cool way to really make a living as an author. It does require a substantial, obviously, if you want to do 100 books, it will require substantial investment and your full-time effort, probably, because you got to be proofreading so much and then marketing so many books. But once you get it right, I think you will be set. I think you can actually make a really nice living as an author, even if you suck at writing.